In this video, we'll add a thumbnail widget. It'll interact with the existing thumbnail picker. I needed to see a bigger preview when uploading thumbnails, and I wanted to add overlays like a simple grid, and I want to be able to analyze the image in different ways. So to start with, we'll add a simple 3x3 grid so we can check for balance and alignment of elements in our thumbnails. If you're curious, these videos take a week to prepare for, an hour to record, and 2 hours to edit, from 35 minutes of footage down to 12 minutes of video. Thanks for watching. I've been hard at work on a Chrome extension to grow my channel by adding features to YouTube Studio. You can help bring this app to the web store. It's as simple as hitting like. Or if there's enough interest, patrons will get access to the code in Project Now, where you can build and install the app and get updates. You'll have access to the repo and project Kanban board and Discord chat, of course, where you can ask me more about the app. So let's go ahead and set up some boilerplate, adding our thumbnail component and setting up a simple query. We'll go ahead and refactor as we go, moving that query DOM function we wrote in a previous video over to our UI module, and we'll set up a new preview module inside our thumbnail folder here. It's kind of like a sub-module, if you will, where we'll set up a component that will show us a nice preview with that overlay. And I like to work kind of incrementally, just getting a simple kind of hello world set up to know that our component is wired up and working. So we'll move our query DOM function out of title checker over to UI to reuse in our new component. And so this is all stuff we've seen before. We'll use React query to query the DOM and make sure we have the element we need to mount our component inside YouTube Studio. Now that that's working, this part gets a little tricky. We need to know which of these thumbnails is selected. Inside Still Picker is this thumbnail uploader where a user can actually change the thumbnail. So we'll need a way to watch or observe for these changes to happen. Now I'll add a couple more selectors because we need to watch for a couple other elements now. One is the thumbnail image, where we'll steal the source attribute, and the other is the thumbnail picker itself. So we can set up a mutation observer or watcher on our still picker element and know which of the stills has been selected and know when a user has changed the image to upload. So how can we determine when the source changes on that image element to know when a user has uploaded a new image? We can do that by pattern matching on the attribute name and checking if the node or the element is the thumbnail element we are querying for. And so much like we've seen in previous videos, we'll set up a use reducer so we have a lot more control over our component. And we'll refactor as we go, so we'll know we'll need to add a maybe thumbnail element to our model. And it's an option because, well, we don't have it yet. And we'll go ahead and store a copy of the image source stolen from that thumbnail element. So when our query result finds our thumbnail, we'll dispatch that set thumbnail element action so we can set it on our model so that back in our pattern matching here, this matches to true. So now we can get the source attribute, dispatch another action setting that image source on our model so that we can render it out in our view. And so adding a view function, we can pattern match on our maybe image source. And if we have one, we can render an image. Otherwise, if we have none, we'll render React.null, which is rendering nothing essentially. And swapping out that fragment with a call to view, passing it our state. Now when we select a new thumbnail, we have a much larger preview over here on the side. But now it doesn't change when we select a new thumbnail from the still picker. So let's get that working. And so we can know that the image has been selected when the aria selected attribute changes to true. So now we can add that to our pattern matching here. So now if we pattern match and get true, we know that our image has been selected. And we can then query for it and do the same thing we just did, dispatch set image source with that source we just found. Wonderful. That's all it took to wire up selecting a new thumbnail. But there's still a small bug where we can't select a user uploaded thumbnail without uploading a whole new one. We can't just go back. So we need to know when the uploader itself is selected, as it gets a selected attribute. So we can pattern match on the name and know that the uploader gets the selected attribute added when it comes back as an empty string. So now we're free to choose any thumbnail we want, and it'll show up in the sidebar, whether that's picking a new one from the still picker or changing it and uploading a brand new image. And now we have our image, we can go ahead and put on a simple 3x3 grid overlay. So I'm going to paste in a block of code here. So this will add a parent div with some styling to make the width match the natural image width created from the thumbnail preview behind the scenes by YouTube, and then a couple spans to fill out the grid. Now the only thing left to add is the initial image source. So we can query for our thumbnail image. And if it finds it, we can set that on our model. So we have a nice thumbnail preview right away. Now you can see at a glance, we can get a sense of the balance and positioning of elements on our thumbnail, and it all works perfectly well with YouTube Studio. So smash that like button, comment if you have questions, and hit subscribe, and thanks for watching.